What's up, YouTube? In this episode, I will be starting to accessorize my 2005 Impreza RS. What's up, everyone? So like I said, this is basically the first episode where I'm going to start accessorizing my Impreza. I've kind of wanted to do a cleanup video first, but the way it has been outside and the amount of stuff that's still on the road, there's no real sense to doing a detail on the outside. So I've decided I'm going to go ahead and install some Rally Armor mud flaps that I purchased and some wheel spacers and wheel nuts. The spacers are 25 mil for the rear, 20 for the front. I don't know how much. I mean, I've looked at it. It doesn't look like it's going to be that excessive, and probably exactly where I want it to be. And I don't know how much different it might be with the other rims that I have for the summer. I don't think the offset's that much different, so they should fit relatively the same. But in any case, even if they poke it a little bit, they'll line up with the mud flaps really nicely. I think that it's just a good place to start now. Putting the mud flaps on, it might protect the side of the car a little bit more. So basically this is just going to be a quick how-to. I mean, it's nothing really much to it. I've put wheel spacers on in previous video on the 240SX. The mud flaps, I mean, they just give you a little bit of hardware, and they're relatively simple to put on as well. But I'll set up the camera and do a little installation video. So to be perfectly honest, I can't even remember where I purchased everything. I think I may have got everything off eBay. The mud flaps certainly came from eBay. The wheel spacers, I believe, came from eBay. And these possibly came from Amazon. I'm not quite sure. They're not exactly what I wanted, but I want to try a closed end because with an open end, the wheel stud still seems to corrode a little bit and build a little bit of rust, and then it bleeds out onto the outside of the wheel nut. I know these coatings don't last a long time because I've seen them so corroded that they're, completely rusted over. And then hopefully I can keep the set that was on the car and clean those up a little bit for the winter time to attempt keeping these ones in good shape. So I expect everything to install really nicely. There's nothing really to it. I'm going to jack the front of the car up and we'll start in the front. First thing to start, whether you're installing the mud flaps or the wheel spacers, is you probably want to get the wheels off. Even installing the mud flaps, you'll get a lot more room to work if you take the wheels off. With the suspension compressed, the tire becomes a lot closer to where your workspace is. Now the front wheels, often you can turn the wheel away from where you need to work and still get the mud flaps on, but it's a little different in the rear, and I suggest jacking it up, whether you take the wheel off or not, just to get that extra bit of room. Make sure you sit the car on jack stands and not rely on your service jack to save your feet and legs. So yeah, just zap off the wheel nuts. The car actually has these McGuard wheel locks on it. These keys tend to shear out and not best to be used with an impact gun, but I'm feeling lucky. So you got these 4 little tab screws. They're plastic. They tend to break and get brittle as they get old. Sometimes they just pull right out. But usually I like to get a pick and just kind of help it kind of from the back side. This one's being stubborn, but there we go. I've got it out without breaking it. I do have some of these, but I think they're bigger like this other one. So I just got to get out the 4 of these. I know it's hard to see what's going on, but if you just work them from the back side, oftentimes you can get them out without breaking them. So now all we need to do is install some clips onto these 3 holes right here, and they supply you with 2 different style clips. One is got a round end, and then one's kind of got a hexed off kind of end. So the round ones are for the front. The difference being is how offset the hole is. So if you put one on the other, they're not going to line up properly. So before I do that, I'm just going to give this a quick little rinse. It's actually really nice and clean in there. Okay, so we've got the clips in place, and this is a lot easier on an RS because there is no skirt. On a WRX or STI, the skirt actually comes up along here, and to do it on those cars, you would actually have to take out to 2 clips in the bottom of the skirt here, so you can actually pop it down out of the way. But this car, as long as the holes somewhat line up, should be ready to put some hardware in. So first we can take the supplied plastic insert, and it'll go into the big hole. Make sure it goes in all the way. And then I'm just going to take the pick and line up the clips with the liner a little bit. So we're ready to install the mud flap. Of course you do want to have the right side, and so we know that the emblem is going to face backwards, and as long as the mounting holes all kind of line up, then you've got the right one. The front ones have 4 holes and the rear have 3, and one's got quite a long slot to it, so it's kind of hard to mix them up. But we want to start with one of the washers, place it on there, and one of the longest screws will go through that, along with this spacer on the back side, and that's to reach out and actually give a little space out going to this push-in tab right here. You might have to push on it a little bit so it stops from turning, but this type of screw should go in. Looks like they've supplied the stainless hardware, so I don't have to worry about it rusting up. And before it gets to the point where it's completely tight, I'll just start installing the other ones. Found the holes really easily. Now, because there is a bit of slotting to it, kind of want to figure out if you want it out a little bit more or in a little bit more. I think I'm going to try it probably in a little bit more. And I'll start with the long screw here at the back. There. It seems like they've made the plastic hardware strong enough that it doesn't tear or rip before it actually tightens up, which is really nice because some of the cheap stuff that you'll get from China will do that. So that is like really on there, permanently installed. Of course, we can't see until what it looks like until the car's back down, but now I can start cleaning up this hub and getting ready to mount the wheel spacer. So I just got a little bit ahead of myself, but what I like to do, steel doesn't get so along with aluminum. I like to just go around the hub with some anti-seize and then just kind of put it in a couple areas going around the hub. Not that the wheel spacer is going to seize on there, but it's just practice that I've done for so long. You do not want anti-seize on your wheel studs, or anything else for that matter. The other bonus to having the wheel off at this point is being able to check your brakes. The brakes on this are in really good shape. At least I'll be able to use them until I want to do something with them. I do have the other set of calipers. I'm pretty sure that they're the exact same size. The brakes that I'm actually using on the old wagon were the exact same size as these, so I do have the WRX calipers from 0203, and I will probably end up putting those on this car. There's our wheel spacer. So you want to spin these guys off and then place it on there, and then reuse these nuts to tighten the wheel spacer onto the hub. And now that I actually have this car in for the first time and the wheel off, I can tell that this strut was replaced. So at least it has some replacement struts in it already. But however, either there's sway bar bushings or links that are really rattling around in it, so I'll probably end up doing ball joints, sway bar links and bushings in the very near future. But there's the wheel spacer installed. These are measured for the actual hub centric, so they do fit on absolutely perfect. Remember, these are the 20 mils for the front because the front already does poke out a little bit more than the rear, and adding 5 mil to the rear will kind of even them out a little bit more, hopefully. So now that we've got this tightened on by hand at least, it's time we actually want to torque this in place. We don't want to just kind of tighten it up and then put the wheel on and tighten it up. Best to torque it now. I am going to seat this at probably 90 foot-pounds or 95 foot-pounds. And if you haven't seen the previous video on how I basically hold this while being torqued, I just take a large pry bar and situate it in here so that, should sit like this, so that as we're tightening the wheel when it rotates, the bar is actually going to lock up and prevent the hub from turning. Now, some would be worried that this might damage the threads, which I know it doesn't, but if you're really concerned, just take your old wheel nuts and spin them onto the hub so that the bar has something to pry up against. Because the bar actually blocks two of the wheel nuts, you are going to have to reposition this. So now that's all that's left is just reinstalling the wheel. With the new wheel nuts, of course. Now I know the wheels are pretty filthy, but the entire car kind of is. I guess they don't poke out too much. But now that I have this wheel done, I will quickly go over to the other side and finish it. You guys don't have to watch that. We'll be moving directly onto the rear. So here we are at the rear wheel. Pretty much the same process. I'm going to remove the wheel quickly. You can see the two attaching holes right here. And there's one plug just in past the tire. And those are the three mounting points. So we just put the three clips in there. The mud flap mounts, and then I'll install the spacer. I'm not going to show you everything just because it's relatively the same as the front, but once I get the wheel off you get a better look. So then just start installing the clips where they need to go. These rear clips fit a little tighter for sure. I'm going to pop out this one. Okay, this last clip kind of goes in behind there, like that. So all three clips are in place. This bottom one doesn't sit very well, but I don't see how I can make it fit any better, but when it all tightens up, it should sit pretty flush, I hope. And then grab the appropriate flap for the side that you're working on. The long screw will pass through the washer, through this elongated hole, and then the spacer, and that'll wind into the innermost part here. Once it starts tightening up, I'll start the other ones just to make sure I can get it properly adjusted. Now I'm going to try and eyeball with the front just to see if I can get it as straight as possible, because I know you can actually get these to flare out quite a bit, and I don't really want them to flare too much. And actually right where it is pretty good. I'm just going to tighten it up right there. Now the rear brakes on this thing are obviously getting quite rusty and rotten, and it's come time they're probably going to have to be done. Oh great, I got anti-seize on my stud. The rotors are really rotten, the pads are worn down quite a bit, the calipers are definitely original. So what I'll probably end up doing, I have the same set of rear brakes on the Impreza wagon. The calipers were replaced a couple years ago, so I'll probably take those and maybe eventually swap them to this car and just use these as core replacements for calipers in the future if I need them. And I'll get some new rotors and pads, probably do some braided lines at the same time. But for now these are going to be okay. There's definitely some pad life left. The backing plate's getting pretty rotten, so I can imagine I'll have to clean all of that up and replace parking brake shoes and all that stuff. That'll make for a good video later on in the summer. So for now, I'm gotta wipe this stud off, and then I'm ready to install the wheel spacer. And basically this wheel's done. Just have to do a final torque when I get the car back down on the ground, and I'll kind of give you guys a final look down the side of the car, probably because I'm going to leave it in for the night. Relatively easy to do. I mean, if you can take a wheel off, you can certainly do a wheel spacer, and the mud flap, I mean, who can't thread screws into a car? So this is just to give you an example of the way I'm doing my car and the stance that I kind of want it to have to look. The more and more I think about it, I probably will never lower this car suspension. I just think it's going to look a little bit more proper for what I'm looking for, as more kind of a rally styled car. So as you guys can see, there is quite a bit of change on the profile of the wheel, the offset being that much different. I was wondering if the fronts would poke too much. This looks pretty decent to me. The rear matches up quite well, being an extra 5 millimeters. And they stay within the mud flaps pretty much. I know the look is extremely popular. It's quite common to poke out your wheels a little bit and put some mud flaps on a Subaru. I knew it was something I was going to do, and I'm glad that's kind of where I started. Like I said, there's more stuff to go onto the car. I'm kind of going to give the front an entire facelift, so I plan on redoing the headlights, cleaning them up, maybe blacking out the insides of them. I have a little bit different grille to put in. I'll clean up the hella horns that I had from the old car and get them installed on this one. Fog lights I haven't thought too much about yet. I do have LED bulbs to put in. So I mean, there is a bunch of accessories, get some things for the interior of the car as well, and the videos will just kind of gradually come out over the next little while I can actually bring the car in and work on it. So if you like this video, definitely give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here and you haven't already, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Leave your questions and comments further down below, and I'll see you in the next one.